Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back. I know it's last thing on a Friday, but we've got a very good session lined up based on IoT supply chains and operations. Our first speaker is Stephen Hamil from NBS. Are you there, Stephen?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi. So I'll just give you a brief introduction. Stephen first started working on NBS products in 1999 and has played a big part in the developments of products such as NBS Chorus and NBS Source. He was the project lead for the development of the BIM toolkit on behalf of the UK government's BIM task group. Prior to joining NBS, Stephen studied at Durham University. His first degree was in structural engineering, followed by a PhD in the digital modeling of building structures. And he's here today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Can you see my screen okay?
I can, yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, nice to meet everybody. I've just popped a message in the chat just to encourage comments and questions, because it'd be really nice to get some feedback after the presentation and maybe for the Q&A at the end. But yeah, today we're going to look at an audit trail of specification data. So specifications, manufacturer product specifications, and the reference publications such as British standards, etc., that are referred to in these specifications in the industry. As mentioned, my name is Stephen Hamil. I'm Innovation Director at NBS. First 6 or 7 years, my sort of studies were at university, doing a PhD in digital modeling at Durham. And then I've had 21 years now working on the NBS products, which maybe hopefully one or two in the audience have heard of. You can follow us at NBS on Twitter, the NBS, and myself, Stephen Hamil, NBS. So we'll have a little look just back at the journey we've had as an organization, going from a paper publisher back in the 1970s through to a cloud platform now in 2020. We look at where we're at and what are, I like the summary from, was it Keithy Thomas earlier, where he said, look, when we think about blockchain, we've got to think about solving real world problems that are in the industry today. So I want to look at where we are at today in the industry, and then ask a few questions. I'm not an expert at blockchain, but ask a few questions and look at a few use cases and hopefully spark some discussion. So let's just have a little look at history. So where we started at NBS was back in 1973, and that was publishing template specification content and guidance in books. But as an organization, we've tried to sort of stay at the sort of front end of technology. So when the first word processing computers came out in the 80s, we put our content on floppy disks. When it became reasonably easy to write computer software, so Windows 3 and sort of Microsoft Windows programming, we released our first software program. Then through things like the .NET framework, web services, all the way through now to having a modern platform using like Amazon Web Services technology and like GraphQL, Angular, etc., to have a real nice responsive platform which we released last year. If we take a look back, like this is how we used to publish NBS, and the point where you printed it out, it was out of date. Every mistake was like frozen on the page. We also have manufacturer product customers, and we used to do what was called the RIBA product selector catalog, which again, a lot of you in the audience, I'm sure, in the construction industry. And it wasn't just us that used to do these sort of catalogs there. You've got the Ideal Standard Blue Book and the British Gypsum White Book. And again, it's the same. It was the same sort of problem. You're sending these out to thousands of offices, like 30,000 product selectors we used to print, like fill up an entire sort of factory floor or something. Send them all through the post. How many trees were cut down? I hate to think. And then we'd be at trade shows, getting people to sign up, put their postal address in so we could post them out in the post. And that was 5-10 years ago. Even though our digital product had overtaken in 1999, we still kept the paper ones going until 2 or 3 years ago. And digital's changed the entire world, and construction's got to sort of play catch up a little bit. But I'm not going to read all of these out, but 6 or 7 years ago, there's a lot of these companies you never heard of, and now they're sort of like the global leader, and we're consuming digital information in a way that sort of you wouldn't have dreamt of, like streaming movies on demand. That's such a sort of recent thing that you couldn't imagine 10 years ago. Like Airbnb, just being able to go and book wherever you want to stay and filter the data. And just to pick a couple of examples, when I bought my first car, I bought the Auto Trader for the northeast of England and went through page after page, making little marks on it. And now you just go to somewhere like Auto Trader, put your criteria in, and you find the 5 or 6 results out of 250,000 that meet your criteria, because it's been digitalized, because it's on the cloud, and that the currency, the information's fantastic, great user experience. If you think of the digital product as a house, you used to have to go to estate agent after estate agent, get the local paper and flick through, etc. Now you just say, look, I want a bungalow between 400,000, 550,000 within 10 miles of this postcode with a swimming pool, and you get your answer. Digital's allowing you to answer your questions extremely quickly and extremely accurately. So what does that mean for construction industry? Specification, where are we now in 2020? One thing that we've done at MBS, and this was government funded 4 or 5 years ago, but we've continued to improve it, is we've published at MBS the classification system for the built environment. So whatever you're describing, you can have a classification code. And we've done this in consultation with some really big client bodies, institutions, some of the leading practices out there. And we've got lots of software tools, from Viewpoint to ArchiCAD to Revit to small packages that are now streaming that classification through APIs. And that allows you to have a classification code for a really large thing, like a holiday village, a classification code for any location or any building or tunnel, or so it's a bit like the Dewey Decimal Code, but for the complexity of all of the different objects you find in the built environment, down to what's inside the building. So inside this building here, there's classification codes for the different types of spaces, like meeting rooms, plant rooms, etc. And then what define the spaces, the different services, the different elements, the different systems, the different products. So you could go all the way down to that particular element, which is a wall, see what systems it's made up, like a wall lining, structural system, cladding system, and then within those systems, see each of the individual product types. And when you're talking about digital twins or digital records, you need to have that language of what you're talking about. You need that sort of ontology that's based around objects breaking down into smaller objects and similar objects together, etc. And that's all there in the public domain now, Creative Commons, to build software applications from. And the software applications that we build around this structure is adding the specification properties against these, providing guidance, linking the standards, and filling those properties with real-life manufacturer content. So if we just jump to the next slide here. Here are 2 main platforms: Chorus, which is the spec platform on the left, Source, which is the manufacturer platform on the right. So as you do a search here, you can see all of the different products and systems you may want to specify in a building are there. And if you have a look at one of these, so concrete block, for example, you'll see that the team at MBS have researched the standards and have defined the technical characteristics, providing guidance and links to those standards. And then when it's talking to our manufacturer customers, they fill those templates with their content. So just like Rightmove, just like Auto Trader, just like Amazon, the manufacturers can fill that with technical content, so you can compare one manufacturer with another and see how those technical characteristics stack up with third-party certification for those that get their technical characteristics tested. So you've got the same language there underneath those classifications. And then it's down to end users, specifiers, whether they're sort of repeat clients or whether they're architects or engineers or contractors or subcontractors, to fill this data set as the building's getting designed and then as the building's getting completed. So if we just go to the next slide here, this is MBS Chorus, but sort of widened out now on a sort of a wide screen. And you can go to a project, look at the architectural spec in this example, and at any point in time, as you've written the specification, publish and say, this is what's getting issued on behalf of the client by the architect to the contractor. So hopefully we can now start to think, well, how could blockchain help you? So on that particular date, that particular person sent out the structural frame package, or in this case, sent out the door set package that was suitable for end of stage review, and it was contractual revision 2. And at the moment, that's pretty much a paper-based output. So you've got a PDF there, and it's saying, look, this is what was published. Here's all the rich information of the various door sets that are going to get built on this project. And these are the ones that have been revised. These are the ones that are new. These are the ones that have changed. And the real world problem that we've got now, and the exam question for today for this presentation is, where can blockchain help? And I strongly believe it can, is as these decisions are made through the project timeline. So the client saying you will use ABC door sets, the architect saying that's the spec for the door set for the classrooms. It's simplified here, of course. The contractor procuring a product, the contractor installing a product, and then 2 or 3 years later, the FM team replacing the product with another product. How does that team at the moment know whether that is a suitable spec? Because this information is generally in a big box of paper or hidden away on some email server in some attachment that's sort of gone forever. And you're seeing that at the moment in legal cases that are in the news, like when a panel falls off a Scottish school, or the tragic events of the Grenfell tragedy. They're saying, okay, who specified that? Who specified that? At that point in time, how is that agreed? And it's going back through emails and bits of paper and things. Whereas what we need is every one of those decisions to get securely recorded so that it can be verified against the previous brief. So what here is a really nice example of where the architect has specified a particular product, and that's the performance that needs to be achieved. But following the rules in the contract around substitution, the contractor has value engineered, but done it in a way that's improved the spec. Not substituted for an inferior product, but substituted for a product that is actual genuine value engineering. And then there's no point in just getting that approved unless it then finally gets confirmed that it actually has gone in the building before the occupiers come in. And that gives the FM team a fighting chance of replacing to the same standard. So first of all, getting no performance gap. And then secondly, maintaining to the same standard as the building goes through its life cycle. And for us at MBS, this is the golden thread of specification decisions. So everyone's really excited when they think BIM is this flashy 3D model, but we think this is what BIM is. This is building information modeling. This is the information that's inside the databases that represent that process that models the building. We already work with technology partners, so we like to think that next year when we start to push into blockchain, that we've got the capability to sort of push data around. Here's nice examples of how we plug into some of the design software out there. So you've got Vectorworks, ArchiCAD, Revit, probably the 3 leading modeling platforms for design. And in every one of those examples, it's the same one of our cloud plugins that just sits in the design software. So as you're doing your design, you can coordinate with the specification, and you can keep your 3D models reasonably light because you're putting those specification decisions into the cloud. And it's the same experience whether you're on a Mac using ArchiCAD or you're part of some huge multidisciplinary international practice using your PCs and Revit. And I think in 4 or 5 years' time, these desktop tools will be replaced with a market-leading cloud platform as well for actual sort of 3D design. And just to see that in sort of more details again, just zooming in here, how that works is you've got your 3D design on the left-hand side, you link that with your cloud data on the right-hand side. So you've got Stephen logged in there, you've got 3D model linked to the architectural spec. And that means when you click on any of the 3D objects on the left, so I think I'm going to click on the door here, you'll see the specification for the door on the right-hand side. And as the project progresses, that becomes a manufacturer spec at some stage. If I click on the window, here's a specification for a particular window. Hyperlinks in there, which we'll come back to. So going to that sort of hopefully single point of truth. And our manufacturer product partners can have their products inside the spec system. So in this example here, we're specifying a paint system, something that generally doesn't go in a 3D model at all, other than a sort of text node. And as you come to your waterborne masonry paint system, you've got all of the paint specs from the likes of Crown and Dulux Trade, etc. So the last 3 or 4 minutes, blockchain. Is this the next innovation that's going to sort of go mainstream in construction and next year? And I think there's a real chance. And I think this is the real world problem it's solving. Like you will be around in 10 years. So I'm going to put my information into this server or this proprietary file format. You can go through company. I could have made this a slide with sort of 60 examples here, but these are all companies that you'd have bet your house on would be around in 10 years, and they no longer are. So, and yeah, from the research I've done, from talking to the guys at CBC, it's becoming mainstream in terms of how programmers can access blockchain. Like we're already big users of AWS, so quite excited to get into this. But I guess the first real world problem is having a record of these standards and industry publications. So this is British Standard A414 2020, and having that history of what was published before that, what it said. So here's the BRE publication. I think we can capture this in blockchain and maybe hash up the PDF and just have some of that key metadata and the links between the publications. I think we can do the same thing on the spec side, hash up the PDF that's been published, and then blockchain the metadata by Stephen on whatever date of October. This was the suitability, this was the revision, this was the classification. So there's a record. If ever there is a court case in 7 or 8 years' time, you can take the PDF to court that's been hashed and say, that was what was issued on that date. And then finally, manufacturer product information. So a panel falls off a building, hits somebody on the head. What was the specification of that product? Did it have third-party certification when the manufacturer was advertising it 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago? So I think there's 3 fantastic use cases there to get our teeth into that are real, genuine, real-world problems now that are achievable, really achievable to solve with the existing blockchain technologies available today. So wanting to come in at exactly 20 minutes, I'm watching the clock there. Please keep the comments coming in the chat. I'm looking forward to seeing what people have been saying. But yeah, an audit trail of specification data. Digital change is happening at pace now in construction. We're catching up with all of those other industries. And our 3 use cases are specifications, manufacturer product data, and those third-party reference publications that define the standards. And just leave this question there, including the spelling mistake. Will 2021 be the year that blockchain goes mainstream in construction? So thank you very much, and back to you, Leo.